just recording. Yes.
I'm live.
All you had to do was say yes.
Okay, hey, welcome everybody. Can everybody hear me? I just unmuted and I think we're ready to go. If somebody can just pop in the chat if you can hear me. All right, very good. So we're going to, and Sharon's here. Hi, Sharon. Um, well, welcome from my dining room, not at Bangor High School, but about Bangor High School. My name is Adam Leach. I'm a school counselor at Bangor High School, and also participating tonight is Sharon Ayer. She will be watching the, hi Sharon, she will be watching the chat box for any questions that you might have. So it's really kind of a neat format for us to do this because I can just keep talking and go over kind of the program. But while I'm talking, as questions pop up, feel free to type them into the chat, and Sharon will help out with answering those questions. So again, welcome. It looks like we've got about 35, 36 people that are joining us so far, and I know that there are others that registered kind of at the last second, and I was just sending off the link to them. So hopefully they're able to get on here fairly soon. As I said, Sharon and I are school counselors at Bangor High School, and the purpose of tonight is really for us to give you an overview of a few of the things to expect between now and the end of this school year, as well as things to look forward to in the fall, and also a little bit of some tidbits that are really good for you to know because the long term plan really starts now. Our joke is often that um, we start planning for the day we get rid of your students on the day they show up. But we want them all to graduate and have good plans and good futures ahead of them. And we know that all of the things that they take advantage of at Bangor High School while they're there can all help make that path a really smooth and good ride for them as they go off into the future. Before I really get too deep into this, I just kind of want to acknowledge a couple of things. I first of all, the venue using YouTube Live. We've used this probably a dozen times or so over the last couple of years, and this online venue has been something that's really gotten good reviews from parents and students because many of you are probably at home right now fixing dinner or just arriving home from work, and the last thing you wanted to do was to bundle back up and head off to sit in Peaks Auditorium to listen to us talk. So some people like the convenience of that, and we've had pretty good turnout doing these kinds of things. The other thing is it will be recorded and posted on YouTube, and I'll share that link with the school counselors at the middle schools. If you missed it, if you want to just zone out right now and then just watch the highlights later on, you're welcome to do that as well. The notes, I pulled the notes off of the last parent night that we did live, and it was just kind of an emotional thing to look at the date on. It was February 25th, 2020. So it was about 2 weeks prior to us shutting down for the pandemic. So it does feel like we're moving a little bit back towards normal, and I don't want to jinx that or anything like that. But some of the information that I'll have to share with you tonight is about going back to some of what that normalcy was before all of this chaos kind of broke out. I also do want to send along any thoughts and prayers that we have for our friends in Ukraine, and the troubles that are going on in the world, and we hope that those come to a peaceful resolution fairly soon. The first thing I really want to talk about with Bangor High School is the people, because if you don't put people in it, it's just a building, and it's the people that make the good stuff happen. I'll start with the administration. We have a high school principal, obviously. Well, I'll even start before that. Superintendent Tager and Assistant Superintendent Harris Smedberg have been incredible to work with this year, and it's really been a nice experience working with them as they've really settled into their roles and their team at the central office. Here at the high school, we have Mr. Butler, our principal, as well as Mr. Doyle and Mr. Reed, our two assistant principals, who are provide some excellent leadership for us, and Mr. Vanetta Stein, our athletic director. The front office staff are the ones that really kind of keep our building running and efficient, and they always do it with smiles on their faces, with charm and grace. So I'd really be remiss if I didn't mention Miss Hopkins, Miss Miller, Miss Willette in the front office for keeping attendance and the flow of traffic and information moving along pretty well. Our guidance team, there are 5 guidance counselors. There are 2 counselors dedicated to each grade level, and then I'm kind of that fifth wheel that has a little bit of all 4 grade levels. But we work really, really well as a team. We're 5 very different individuals, and we all bring a kind of a unique perspective that kind of the collective whole of the 5 of us. It's really nice to have that diversity in our group. We also have Mrs. Thayer and Mrs. Pacifici, who are our secretary and registrar that, again, keep the traffic flow and information, the data, the files, all of those things that really help us to be able to do our jobs really, really well to the best of our ability. There are 78 teachers at Bangor High School, and there are 11 department heads. And so that structure allows for kind of academic supervision and teachers support. And it is a big building, but when you break it down into some of those smaller levels, they are really able to focus onto the content that they're teaching and be innovative and do some really cool stuff to help students get the best experience that they can. And that's kind of where your kids are going to get. That's the most important part of their experience. It's the who is doing the job as much as what the job actually is. A little bit about our school. We have every year we have to update something called a school profile. That's what we use to send out to universities and really anybody else that requests it. If any of you would like to have a copy of our school profile, you're welcome to give us a shout and we can send it along. But on the school profile, we talk about a little bit of what our school looks like in terms of performance. 80% of our graduating classes, we tend to be on that same trend of being one or 2 points either side of 80% every year, go to a 2 or a 4-year school or into the service. And the class sizes, we're going to be right around, I would say, about 280 students to 290 students in the incoming 9th grade class. National merit semifinalists, based on the way the students perform on PSATs in their junior year, which is a pretty good indicator of students being able to attain high level performances in academics. We've had as many as 6, and we've never had fewer than 2 as long as I can remember. And I've been at Bangor High School for 25 years. AP scores, we're typically right around 80% of our students that earn college credit through their performance on AP exams. 80% is 20% higher than the state and national averages. So on that end of the spectrum, we do have extremely high performing students. And that means that the teachers are really focused on doing their job and do an excellent job at getting students prepared for those exams. College acceptances is another thing that is on our school profile. Colleges across the country want to know what kinds of schools our students are getting into. And the cool thing about that piece of data is they're getting into where they want to go. And we have had students at all of the Ivy Leagues, including, and then we would add Stanford, University of Chicago, MIT, Caltech, Georgia Tech, all of these high-end schools that are extremely difficult to get into because of the selectivity of their admissions process. Students are getting in there every year, and that's a pretty good sign. We also are the we send more students to the University of Maine than any other high school anywhere. So we're a big school and we're close to the flagship campus. So we do get a lot of students that go to the University of Maine system. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. Academics. I think that one of the most important things to pass along to your sons and daughters is that when you come to high school, everything is permanent. So many of you in the chat line have talked about being students at Bangor High School. Your transcripts are still at Bangor High School. So I don't know if that means that I could hold your transcripts hostage and threaten to show your kids. No, I won't do that. But if you want a copy of your transcript and you're a Bangor High School student in the past, it's still there. One of my favorite stories is of a person that came in during the summer, a gentleman that said he was a student at Bangor High School in 1967, and he wanted to get his transcript, and I was able to give it to him. He was a man that had just retired. He served 3 tours of duty in Vietnam, and he wanted his transcript because he wanted to go back and finish earning his diploma. So that little story shows you that the transcript is a permanent document, and it contains all of your grades from grade 9, 10, 11, and 12. So coming to high school, you do get a reset. It's a clean slate. It's a fresh start coming to a new school. But all of those grades, your PE grade from grade 9 is still on your transcript, and it's important for kids to know that going in. Sometimes we have students where we have to enter into conversations with colleges about that they might have had a little bit of a rocky start to high school, and we look at trends where maturity happens and improvement happens. But if students know as 8th graders that coming into high school, all of that matters, that is an extremely helpful thing to understand. To graduate from Bangor High School, students need 22 credits. A full year course is a 1-credit course. So you need to basically take 22 credits. There are a few courses that have more than 1 credit attached to it. United Technology Center courses, for example, are 3 credits because they take up half the day. Students need to have 4 credits of English, so you need to take an English class all 4 years of high school. In math, you need 3.5 credits, so you will take 4 math classes. Science is 3 credits. History, you need 1 credit of United States history, which is typically in the sophomore year, but as 9th graders, kids will take a half credit of geography and a half credit of civics. I need 1.5 credits of health and PE. That's a half of PE and a half of health and 2 halves of PE, 1 in the freshman year and 1 in the sophomore year. Art, 1 credit at least. And then at least 7 electives. We require students to take 6 classes a year or 6 credits per year. As long as they don't fail any classes, that's going to get you to 24 credits in 4 years. And some can even get more than that because under certain circumstances, 7 classes would fit in. So typically what's going to happen over the next few weeks, if it hasn't already, I know that a lot of the 8th graders have already chosen their electives and working with their school counselors at Cohen and Dowdy School and any of the surrounding area students that are listening in tonight. Once you register as a Bangor High School student, we'll be able to work with you to pick your classes. But at Cohen and Dowdy, the students will pick a PE class. There's 4 different PE classes to pick from, and they'll pick at least 1 elective. They'll maybe an art class, a foreign language class, JROTC are all very popular choices for 9th grade electives to choose. They have to take 5 kind of core requirement classes. They have to take the health and PE class, the geography, civics. They have the math and English and an earth science. And I should mention a little bit about academies. Right now, I kind of want to interject that in. If you have a young person that is exceptionally gifted in a particular content area, knows that that's a passion that they want to pursue through high school and beyond, then an academy might be a good idea. We have the STEM Academy, which often speaks for itself: science, technology, engineering, and math. We have an academy in humanities, that is history, English, and world languages and cultures. We have a business academy, and we have a fine arts academy. So all of those things are options for students that are very strong, exceptionally strong in those areas, but also very passionate about those subject areas. If you're not interested in academies, then what we would tend to say to students is use every experience you have at high school to start to figure out what your future pathway is going to be. Bangor has 24 advanced placement courses. We also have remedial courses, or courses that have a higher level of academic support built into them. So if a student has a strength and a weakness, not everybody is either good at everything or struggles at everything. We tend to have people that have things that are higher level that they're capable of, and some that they're going to need an extra little bit of support. Bangor being as large as we are, we have 1,150 students. As I said, 78 teachers and over 400 sections of courses. We can really custom design that schedule. So a student can take an honors level earth science, but a level 2 English. It's possible to do all of those kinds of things. We seldom run into situations where students are unable to get the match of classes that they want. Kind of looking, I mentioned levels. We do have all the way up to advanced placement courses and early college courses that carry college credit with them. Typically, those are not courses that they take in grade 9. We have honors levels courses, so in English, in earth science, in geography, civics, and in math courses. If students are really strong at the math course that they're in, there is an honors level for that. Level 1, when you hear us talk about level 1 and level 2, a level 1 course is a typical grade level student. So if you think about the bell curve of student ability, and you're looking at that middle 2/3 of students, those are level 1 students. Those are students that are working at grade level. And what we consider at grade level to be is somebody that is going to go through high school, and when they graduate, they are capable of admission to a 4-year college. Even if a college is not part of their career pathway, if they're going to military service or something like that, we still want students to have the capability to get into the universities. Level 2 is a more supported, more teacher-focused class, where the teacher is really going to be helping students with a lot of the responsibilities of making sure work is done, and supporting them kind of step by step. And as you go up towards honors, there's a lot more expectation of student independence, probably a little bit more outside of classwork and that sort of thing. I mentioned a little bit about transcripts, and I do want to say that once a student completes 1 semester at Bangor High School, that transcript has grades on it, and they get added to every time a semester ends. We have a 4.0 grade scale, but students that take honors in advanced placement courses, early college courses, those are concurrent enrollments. I just saw in the list, we have 9 concurrent enrollment courses that exist inside of Bangor High School, where students don't have to leave the building to go to universities to take college courses. But those honors AP courses are weighted. They have they're worth a 5.0 or a 4.0 with a B, as opposed to 4.0 as a maximum grade. So when students can challenge themselves, we want to make sure we're rewarding them not just for grades, but also for academic rigor. It'll be very common for Bangor High School counselors and teachers to look at students maybe in a level 1 class getting hundreds on everything, to say maybe you ought to try an honors class, or maybe you ought to try an AP class. and not just kind of take it easy, because we want students to challenge themselves, to stay engaged and excited about what they're doing. And one way to do that is to start leveling up. On that note, here we are, your parents of eighth grade students. In 4 years, you're going to be asking, and your students are going to be asking about scholarships. If there's one thing that, if your students are listening with you tonight, or if there's one thing that you're going to talk to them after this presentation, the thing that I would recommend that you talk to them about is talk to them about merit-based financial aid. Because when we think about scholarships, we think about sitting down and filling out applications for scholarships. And while those are good and they can yield some financial support, and we do encourage that, there is no better support or academic support, financial support for post-secondary education than getting good grades in rigorous classes in high school. Case in point, students that are going to the University of Maine, the University of Southern Maine, Husson, and Eastern Maine Community College. Those universities participated in something that we call on-the-spot admissions back in November. The students at Bangor High School that participated in those events earned just slightly more than $2 million in financial aid collectively as a group. Comes out to about $24,000 per student. So if I told you right now that the grades that your son and daughter gets in high school and the courses that they select to make sure that they're challenged could result in a $24,000 deduction from your college tuition bill, what I don't want you to do is I don't ever want you to be able to say, why didn't you tell me that when they were a freshman? I'm telling you that while they're eighth graders. So that's a really important thing to note. So their academic performance in high school is exceptionally important. Additionally, their participation in extracurricular activities is very important. We tend to want to say to students that you should participate deeply in at least 2 activities. And if you don't know what activities you want to do, try them out. Give it a try. If you don't like something, you can always try something different the next year. But getting involved in a sport or a club or an activity helps make a more rounded student. The reason why clubs and activities and sports are part of public education is they are part of human development. And they're really, really important. And we do take those things into consideration as part of the whole education of young people. So we encourage you to get involved in at least 2 activities. There will be an activities fair right off the bat in September when your students come in. Anything from student council to robotics team, to math team, to chess club, civil rights team. There's so many things going on that are not just sports, but a healthy mind and a healthy body go together. So we also do consider sports to be really important, not just on a competitive level, though that is good. We look for activities such as track and field. The ladies track and field team won the state championship, but it's a large team, so lots of students can play. It's a no-cut sport, and lots of people can really join in and be part of that great experience. So we really encourage that. I know there's probably going to be a lot of questions about the master schedule and what is going to be the operational procedure for Bangor High School next year. We are going back to a mod schedule, the 16 mod schedule, which those of you in the middle school are familiar with, and anybody that attended Bangor High School prior to 2020 also knows a little bit about the mod schedule. In 2020, after the pandemic started and we came back for the 2020-21 school year, we switched to a 4x4 block schedule, and then we repeated that this year. The main purpose for that schedule, and it has lots of conveniences that students like. There's lots of shortcomings that people don't like, as is the case with any schedule. But the reason why we chose that schedule for this past 2 years was to limit traffic in the hallways, to limit exposure between kids, and to help try to do our best job to keep the pandemic under control. As things seem to be, again, the cloud is lifting somewhat. We've made the decision to go back to kind of the bread and butter and what was familiar to the school. So it will be that 16 mod schedule. That means students will have their classes every day. They will see their teachers every day. They will be shorter classes. There'll be 40-minute classes that meet every day all year long, and science labs will be 60 minutes long. So that's what you can expect with the schedule. The day begins at 8 and it ends at 2. We don't have a homeroom to start the day, so students start their academic work immediately at 8 a.m. So arrival time should be 7:45 to make sure they have time to go to lockers, say hi to friends, do the normal morning routine, and be able to get to class on time, because the academic program starts promptly at 8 a.m. It ends at 2 p.m. And buses are usually rolling at 2:10. Any parent that has ever tried to pick up or drop off a student at Bangor High School, either 5 minutes before or 5 minutes after the end of the day, knows that it can be a little bit of a traffic jam. There's lots of people coming and going and big yellow buses moving. So 15 minutes before and 15 minutes after is usually a pretty nice, convenient time. So there's lots of time after school activities that are after school activities, things, sports. I used to be the boys soccer coach at Bangor High School. Practices start at 3 generally. So there is time after school to either unwind, have time with friends. But if they need academic support, that's the best time of day to be able to get all of that. A few other important factors that I really want to throw out as we look at a progression of students as they move through high school, and really from pre-K all the way up to high school. These are things that are good academic practices that will help to guarantee success. Attendance. Maintaining an acceptable attendance rate is easily the most recognizable factor in a student's success in school. By having good attendance, you avoid inconsistent connections. If a student is absent on a Tuesday, they come back on Wednesday and they probably feel a little bit lost because they didn't hear the lesson the day before. The lesson the day that they return is probably going to be a little complicated. Absences do happen. And when somebody is absent, they should be working to make connections with the teacher to be able to plug any holes that they might miss on the days that they're out. Poor attendance creates gaps in learning. Having gone through the pandemic for 2 years, there are gaps in our students' learning that none of us, students, parents, or school personnel, have been able to do anything about. So in this day and age, when attendance is possible, students should be at school as much as absolutely possible. When there is makeup work to do, it's doubling a student's responsibility. We strongly encourage students to stay up to date and to stay current, and try not to use the good graces of the teachers that give extensions and extra time, but to stay caught up, because when you're absent and the train keeps rolling, you have to catch up and continue with the regular work as well. The other thing, other than attendance, that I would say is most critically important for a student's success at high school is they are becoming young adults. So taking charge and taking responsibility of their own actions. And there's lots of different things that you can kind of group into that category. Self-management is so important. As parents and teachers and counselors and administrators, we need to progressively hand responsibility of their self-management over to them, so that they can take responsibility. We need to be less of the doers for them and the facilitators of their own actions, so that we can make sure that when they leave the nest and they go on to careers in college and that sort of thing, that they have those life skills that they're going to be able to use while we're in high school. And I think that's probably one of the things that you'll see right off the bat that starts to be very different from from a K-8 experience is that there is going to be a higher degree of expectation on the student to communicate and to make decisions for themselves and that sort of thing. That doesn't mean we want parents to be shut out of the loop. We definitely love having parents involved and communicating with us, asking us questions, just like we're doing here tonight. What is Bangor High School really all about? If we were going to kind of put all of this kind of into a nutshell, um, what are the words? What are the things that we use? And that's a question that Mr. Butler and I talk about a lot in terms of what's the word, what's the phrase, what's the message that we want people to understand that really can kind of say, well, this is what Bangor High School is all about. For many years, our mission statement has been academic excellence for all. I would add to that now that we are more using the mission statement of pathways to excellence, knowing that an education is not a one size fits all. All of your children are going to choose very unique and different paths. They come from different backgrounds, they've had different experiences, some commonality and crossover, but pathways to excellence, having the opportunity to custom design a schedule for a student, and you can take accelerated classes in some areas and more supported classes in others, and having things like JROTC, access to the United Technology Center, and having all of these vast offerings in all of these departments allows those pathways to diverge as kids get closer and closer to college. We are not going to pigeonhole kids into certain channels as they leave. We want to have a diverse set of graduates that are capable of doing a diverse set of things. If we think about Team Bangor leaving Bangor High School, we want to be able to look out and see our graduates all the way across society and doing many of the great things that we know they can do. So I kind of started with a little bit of a joke to say that, you know, when we first meet your children on day one of school, the first thing we say is we can't wait to get rid of you. And what we mean by that is not that they're bad kids, but that we can't wait to see what they're going to be when they walk out the door, and what great things that they're going to do. So we start with the end in mind. We'll be making 4-year plans with your students literally within the first few weeks of school. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? And start with those dreams and those visions, and then start mechanizing them, and giving students the opportunity to either verify their dreams or to change their course of action as they start to have greater and more broad experiences. A favorite saying of the administration is that we have supported next level challenge for all kids. We want kids to be challenged. We want them to struggle a little bit, to find answers and solutions, to be good problem solvers. Challenge is kind of at the core of a good education. But we also want students to be supported. So if you imagine the two hands of education, we're going to be pushing students with one hand, and we're going to be holding their hand with the other. So we want to have a safe environment, a supported environment where students can safely take challenges, so that when they head out on their own, they will be capable of making a lot of their own decisions with great confidence. So we meet students where they're at. Math is a great example of that. As they're meeting with their middle school counselors, one of the things that we're going to do in building their schedule is we're taking recommendations for the next level courses for students. Math is where that's probably the most critical decision. Students will come to high school with a wide range of different abilities, and we want to make sure that we start them off in the place where they have some knowledge, but they're also going to be set up to be challenged to move and extend their learning. When students are ready to accelerate, we want to give them that push and say, go get them. So when students are enjoying and really finding high levels of success, we strive to keep them challenged and keep them excited about moving forward. When students struggle, we do want to make sure that we have remediation and support if somebody falls behind. Life is a challenge, and we know that the timing of these challenges are not always convenient. We know that young people mature at a very different rate from one student to the next. And we know that education is a readiness process. And so we want to make sure that students get support when they have deficiencies, they get support when they fall behind, and that we can get them kind of back on track and moving in a positive direction. The last thing that I'll say before I start to join Sharon with some of the question and answer is to kind of outline the steps over the next few weeks. Many of the students have already met with their middle school counselors to pick their elective courses. We are taking recommendations from their social studies teachers, their current social studies teachers, math teachers, English teacher, science teacher for those core classes. And we're going to build a schedule for each individual student that will reflect those recommendations and the elective choices that your sons and daughters have chosen. That doesn't mean when your students get a schedule from Bangor High School that those are the only classes they're allowed to take. It's always very important to know that schedules can be changed. But when we get recommendations from middle school teachers, the teachers that know those students the best now, as educators, they can usually give pretty accurate advice as to where they need to be. The biggest thing that we don't want to have happen is we don't want students to be very underplaced or overplaced. That would be a pretty negative first year of high school. So we want to make sure those placements are accurate. Keeping in mind that the people that know the students the best are the students themselves and mom and dad. So we want to give you the opportunity to make changes. This is a good example of kind of what we're about as educators at Bangor High School, and that's to say we're not just going to hand you a blank page as a 13-year-old and say figure out what you want to do. We're going to have support from educators that know these kids to help fill in the blanks, and then give students an opportunity and families an opportunity to make adjustments based on what you know. That will also create a need for consultation, an email, a phone call, or something like that to a counselor at the high school, so that we have a discussion about, okay, if you're going against a teacher's recommendation, why, and making sure that you understand the risks, the benefits, and all of those sorts of things. So that is a supported step into high school for students with regards to the courses they pick. Cohen and Dowdy schools will be having their step up day towards the end of May, and where all of your students will come to the high school, get a tour around the building. Many of you have been in the building and already gotten tours, and it's been nice to see and meet a lot of you and have you meet some of our current students. So by the end of May, you'll have the opportunity to come up and get that tour. That's when student schedules will be distributed to current 8th graders. So you'll basically have about a month before, maybe a little bit more than a month before the school counselors are out for summer vacation, to be able to connect with us, to make changes, so that on day one of the school year, on September 1, you can hit the ground running and you're not trying to rearrange things kind of at that last minute. School counselors do return to the building in the middle of August. So you have that period of time in May and June. You have some time over the summer maybe to process and think about your decisions. And in August, you can connect with a school counselor like Sharon or myself, or Mr. Clement, who is going to be the other 9th grade counselor, and talk to us about some of those choices, and if they're good choices, or if you want to explore some other things. Every student is welcome to contact us to see if maybe you want to spend a couple of hours at the high school as a student shadow. We do have student ambassadors that are ready to take the task of having you follow them to class and get a little bit of a feel of the building. I also want to extend the offer to any students or families that might be feeling a little bit of anxiety or stress over coming to the high school. I know it's a big step uh, to do a walk around, to come in and do a visit, especially after you get your schedule, so that you can actually maybe even meet some of your teachers, see the rooms that you'll be in, learn a little bit more about the curriculum and the kinds of things that will be taught in those classes. That's it. Okay. I've kind of come to the end of my notes of what I was hoping to talk about, and um, anything that I can help out. How's it going in the chat, Sharon? It's nice to see some good shout out to some teachers. I got to say too, I've been at Bangor High School for 25 years, and I like to say that I started teaching when I was 9, but I don't. Most people don't believe me when I say those kinds of things. But for the last 25 years, the staff at Bangor High School is exceptional. They're smart. They're they're alert and passionate about their subjects. They're good for kids, and trying to find that balance between the firmness of trying to make sure students understand boundaries, rules, but also having that caring touch to know that, uh, especially teens, will find themselves in a struggle at some point, and there's always somebody there to be able to support them and to help them out. Um, Again, having a big building with that many people in it, there's always going to be somebody that you can relate to, no matter um, how different you might be or your interests might be. We've got an eclectic and energetic and passionate group of people that will be working with your young people, and that's where I say, if a student is nervous, is scared, is struggling, um, use their voice, reach out. We can find people that can really connect. A couple other quick things that I just remember. We do now have a PCHC health clinic at Bangor High School, a school-based health clinic that has both mental health counseling and normal medical support. So students can register with them and get either medical services or mental health counseling services without having to leave the building. That is a fantastic addition to our building. Much needed, and it's going to make a really big impact on school, I think. That's I think a really good thing. We also added a second social worker to Bangor High School this year. So Mrs. Thompson and Mrs. Perron are both really good at helping students, as well as if I didn't say Mrs. Haskins' name before the end of this evening, I should be drawn and quartered, because our school nurse has been the champion of the last 2 years. And she's a calm and very intelligent, very super awesome person that makes our building even better. So um, that if I were just going to give this presentation to last about 15 seconds, I would say it's the people that make things really go exceptionally well. So what else have we got over here? Oh my gosh, I'm seeing some familiar names in the chat. I don't know. That it's kind of fun to be able to see some familiar names over there, but it's like, oh my gosh, 25 years. All right. Well, I'm just going to have a moment of silence here and wait to see any questions. I don't want to sign off and cut anything short before you get any of your questions answered. Oh, yes. How to contact us? I think the best way to contact us is through email. Uh, it's You can reach me. It's first initial last name, so a leach at bangorschools.net, and for Sharon it's sayer at bangorschools.net. You're also welcome to call the easiest way to remember is to just call the front office, 992-5500, and then ask for the guidance department. I'll put that in the chat. So that's the phone number at the high school. And that's my email if you want to give a shout. You can also get my email address. I was the one that sent out the links to tonight's meeting. So if you've still got that email, then you have my email address as well. I'm seeing some thank yous coming in, and I would just kind of bounce those right back at you and say thank you to you guys for taking some time to pay attention and to be aware of the things that are looming on your children's immediate future. And we're excited to be a part of that. Okay, I think we're winding down now. So again, if there's any lingering questions, if something pops into your head at a later moment, feel free to give us a quick shout. I encourage you to continue to work with your middle school counselors over the next few weeks to make sure that those who know your kids the best at school are helped to make sure that they're really they're ready to go. And I'll be looking forward to hearing from you again, and be looking forward to meeting your kids very, very soon, either for a shadow or for Step Up Day, and then certainly uh, next fall. September will be here sooner than later, and I'm not wishing away the summer, that's for sure. So thank you everybody for joining. Thank you, Sharon, for handling the chat, and we'll see all of you very, very soon. Have a wonderful rest of the spring.